do they spread disinformation, like intentional, inaccurate information? Like, yeah, they do. But what they do intentionally, more often than anything, is they omit.
Chief, help me understand, what are some likely reasons someone wouldn't report a prohibited firearm now? But are we talking, is it passive non-compliance? Is it confusion over, where it falls under? Or is this perhaps a deliberate resistance?
I think the safe answer is probably to say...
There's this network called TVO, and I think it's TV Ontario. It's like a public broadcasting, like PBS kind of thing in Ontario, paid for by the taxpayer. And TVO had this special, and I think it was called Canada's Undeclared Firearms, if memory serves me correctly. A big overarching question in this show was why is the buyback failing so spectacularly? Why are gun owners not participating? Like, their guns are going to become illegal. The government's offering money or whatever, right? We know the details of this. Why aren't they participating? And who did they ask the gun lobby, Canada's gun lobby, to go explain this? We represent probably 150,000 gun owners directly, right? This is like biggest, the biggest unions in the country are around those numbers, right? So would they call us and say, hey, can you tell us why your members are not, why your supporters are not participating, why gun owners are rejecting this? Nope. We never got a call. Who did they get on there to speak for gun owners? Wendy Sukier of the Coalition for Gun Control and a police chief somewhere in Ontario who was extremely careful, walked the tightrope the whole time. So you really didn't get any, definite answers one way or the other. So I will tell you, I've been dealing with the legacy media in Canada for over 10 years. And do they spread disinformation, like intentional, inaccurate information? Like, in other words, what some people would call lies? Yeah, they do. But they don't do it very often. They do spread some misinformation, but what they do intentionally, more often than anything, is they omit information. They deplatform people. They don't offer them a platform. They don't bring the right people on. They ignore things completely. So in this case, what they'll do is they're like, oh, gun owners have a problem. Let's ask let's ask the gun control people, the anti-gun people.
I want to get a better understanding of sort of perhaps maybe the failure of this buyback program in terms of the numbers that the government was expecting. Chief, help me understand, what are some likely reasons someone wouldn't report a prohibited firearm now? But are we talking, is it passive non-compliance? Is it confusion over, where it falls under? Or is this perhaps a deliberate resistance?
I think the safe answer is probably to say a little bit of all three of what you are outlined or articulated there. Certainly as chiefs, we were first introduced to the concept of the buyback just over a year ago when we met first with the federal public safety minister, who really outlined the program, how it was going to work. So I think that they have tried to certainly message and inform those who are gun owners as to how the program is going to work. There's compensation that is sort of obviously aligned to the program. I think for some gun owners, those who chose not to participate perhaps didn't like the value that they were potentially getting for their firearm. Some, I think, were just never going to participate. And some, I think, just have a political position that they feel that this law is not applicable or shouldn't be put into law. And I think have just a position that this is something that the government is overstepping in relation to that.
It's important to understand that the buyback was intended to be an incentive to sort of sweeten the pot for gun owners. And if they choose not to participate, that's their choice.
What the gun owners are thinking, and a police chief from Ontario, right? And then when people complain, they go, oh, well, we already covered it. We already had this conversation with our audience. No, we don't need any other, we've already covered that. So we're not going to bring on anybody else, but we'll see. I've reached out to TVO to see if they really want to dig in and find out the prohibitions and the confiscation program that the government is calling the buyback program, why it's been rejected by police, law enforcement across the country, by provinces and all the territories, and then by 2.4 million licensed gun owners. to the point where they're only getting a few tens of thousands of guns when there are millions of these guns in circulation. They should be curious about that. Anyway, I've said this too many times, so I'm not going to go on and on about it, but it's interesting, isn't it? You know, so we'll see. We'll see if TVO is interested in the truth and accuracy and things like that, because we're always here ready to have a mature, honest, even-keeled, polite conversation about this topic, because it's really important to all Canadians, no matter whether you own guns or not.